Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Loving the fact that more and more of us are getting back to reading. Back in the day when there was less technology, we read a lot of books. Now I'm seeing more and more people reading, not just on screen, but physical books. I saw somebody, a friend of mine yesterday, walks by me holding a book. I'm like, wow, you liking that? He goes, yeah, this is great. It was actually a nonfiction book. We're going to look at maybe some fiction today. And if you've thought about writing a book, you have some thoughts, some ideas, what about the plot? And should you use some of the tried and true directions within the plot to craft your story or go in a totally different direction? Let's go to an expert on that. Helps a lot of people author their own books from start to finish, full service, right down to the editing, right down to the marketing, right down to these amazing covers. He is the man behind NFB Publishing. Mark Pogodzinski is our professional of the year, and he's back with us. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Very well. I'm interested about this in terms of the plot. And before we dig deeper, I think it might have been you that said it, a couple of episodes back, that a lot of the books that are out there, a lot of the stories, even movies, follow loosely the same kinds of formulas. Would you say that's right?
Yeah. I think we talked about Dennis Lehane, what I had the opportunity to see speak. And his whole idea was everyone thinks that these plots that I've come up with are new or intriguing. And he fully admitted there's maybe 7 or 8 total plots in fiction, and everything is a variation of those 7 or 8. And all he did was take a couple and put them together in a different way or told it from a different point of view. So there's a lot to work with, obviously, fiction and imagination, but everything kind of follows a basic plot pattern. And taking you way back to your high school career and your English teachers, the plot outline of the rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, every story should follow that because it gives the reader, it rewards the reader for reading, it gives them the climax, it wraps them up for them. And then if you truly enjoyed what you wrote, if you do it correctly, it allows you to make your sequel or turn your book into a series, which a lot of authors are looking to do.
Do all fictional stories have a hero?
We have to say yes, or the protagonist, to use the term. The protagonist should be someone that the audience roots for, but not necessarily a hero. And multiple examples, one that comes to mind immediately is Dexter. Dexter's a serial killer who kills other people.
I love Dexter, by the way. And my daughter's 16, and I walked in her room the other day, and she's now watching it. She goes, yeah, this is a great show. I'm like, I saw that years ago, and I got to circle back to it. Please continue. I love it.
So we have our protagonist is a serial killer who's killed hundreds of people and done it in the most graphic way, but he tries to kill bad people. But in the end, he is a killer. So he's not a hero in the classic sense, but he is the protagonist. He's the ones we kind of root for. We want him to get away with it. And to show the longevity of that, the TV series is being relaunched. Again, there is a prequel that shows you the time before he started.
Wow.
I forget the name of the actor who started it. He was from 6 Feet Under. But before that plot line, they're taking it back. So when you create a great character like that Dexter character, you can do a lot with it, even though the original writer is no longer involved. The character lives on. And again, because it was such a magnetic character, again, not a hero. No one should be a serial killer. Mm-hmm. So, but as you're watching it, and I'm sure you did too, I hope he gets away with it. And then every episode where he almost gets caught, you're like, oh no, what's going to happen? And that kept us on the edge of our seats for multiple seasons.
There was a movie series back in the 70s, and I can't think of the actor. I see it in my mind. It'll come to me. He was like a vigilante, where he was out. People did bad things.
Charles Bronson.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you. Yeah.
His wife gets killed,
yes.
I forget, and then he becomes the vigilante.
Yeah.
And they pulled multiple movies out of that concept also.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guess how funny, Mark. It repeated itself again in a different form. And, trivia here. And before I even mention this, the actor for Dexter, Michael C. Hall, is he in the new series?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Did you know that during the filming of Dexter, he overcame cancer?
Mm-hmm.
He overcame cancer. He was actually wearing a wig during a couple of seasons there. And his sister in the show, if you remember her,
Yep.
in real life, they got married.
Yes.
Short period of time, but they were married. It's kind of weird the way that all worked out.
And I believe you were thinking of Death Wish.
Yes.
Was the
Yeah.
movie.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Same,
again,
same concept.
yeah, that's basically your superhero origin story. Someone close to you dies, and you take it upon yourself to seek justice on that person's behalf. With that movie, he kills people, and like with Batman, he doesn't. But again, we look at the plot line. Plot line's very similar. You seek revenge for someone you lost. Society doesn't give it to you, so you go outside of society. You become the vigilante, and you seek justice in your own way. And Batman 1939 was the first Batman comic book, and that is still producing movies, TV shows, books. And so the plot line remains the same, but the character is what drives that. And again, as a writer, we want that. We want to create that immortal character.
All right, let's do this if we may. And my memory's going to be a little foggy. I think your memory's very crystallized here in terms of sharpness. Batman, okay. Spider-Man. Now I'm trying to think of the beginning for Spider-Man, bitten by a radioactive spider.
His Uncle Ben dies. Again, it's the same plot line. Someone close to him dies, seeks justice. With him, he actually lets the murderer of his uncle go. And so the guilt of not doing what he should have done drives him. But again, same thing.
Wow.
I've lost someone important to me. Society has not given me the justice I want. And like Spider-Man, I have these powers. What's my responsibility to society? I should go out and solve crimes and fight injustice because no one did that for me, but I can do it for others. And you can take that loosely, and that's Batman. That's Charles Bronson in Death Wish. You can make a case it's Dirty Harry in the first movie because he goes beyond the law in that one.
Yeah.
So you see that plot line, it's great, right? We love it.
It
We've
works.
all been wronged in one way or the other, and we want to get back at the bully or the person who wronged us, and that's why those plot lines are so resonant.
And I think the ultimate example of that, and it was years after all of these plot lines were established, The Punisher.
There you go.
There you go.
He witnessed his family killed in a park. He has a skill set because he was in special forces.
Yep.
And he is Charles Bronson in Death Wish with a lot more skills and a lot more guns.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Where Charles Bronson was just, a dude with a gun and a vendetta. Before we gravitate away from this, Superman. Trying to think of the beginnings of that. I mean, he came from another planet, etc.
He loses his entire planet. And so he's raised with the guilt, the orphan story. The orphan who's trying to find his origins. He is special. He doesn't realize he's special until he starts growing up.
Yes.
He's raised by his parents. His father, depending on what series you read or watched, his adopted father dies sometimes. And then he has these powers like Spider-Man. It was my responsibility to society. Okay. He could go evil. And there was an evil Superman movie, Bright something like that was made where Superman went evil. So they took it and tried to reverse it. But Superman is our great hero, right? He does what's right. He doesn't kill, even though he could. But he is, again, operating outside of the normal laws of society to do good. And we root for him. Again, there's a new movie coming out next year. And I believe he was 38, 39 when he came out, originally came out. So there's another one. I think that's trying to think 12 Superman movies in my lifetime.
Wow.
And again, because he's such a resonant character and because his plot line is so important to us, and like, who wouldn't want to be able to solve all the problems of the world with superpowers? I would hope most of us would. And so that's why that plot line is so important, and then why it works. And why kids wear Superman t-shirts, and not to say that I don't have a Superman t-shirt, which I do, because it allows us to hope that one day we could do that.
Yeah. And it could have went, the plot line could have went in a totally different direction. It could be for bad, with those powers.
And again, I forget the name of the movie, but it was basically the Superman movie. He becomes evil. So he's like a super powered evil teenager.
So looking at these plot lines, we're seeing repetition, not in a bad way, but they're regurgitated along the way. Is it safe to say that essentially there are, a number, whatever the number is, 5, 7, whatever, that these themes always come up in pretty much all of these fictional stories?
Absolutely. If you look at the number one fiction book right now, it's Wicked because of the musical and the movie, and that's your plot line, right? Ostracized young person, special powers, learns that their past is not what they thought they were.
Yep.
They're going to operate outside the norm of society, in that case, Oz, and it's the Superman gone bad with the Wicked Witch. But then you also have Glenda, and then you have the friendship plot line. And can friendship overcome the devastating news that you're not the person you thought you were? And all those plot lines still resonate in Wicked. And then you have, I think James Patterson's number 2 with Alex Cross, which I forget how many books there are of Alex Cross, over 30, same plot line. A guy trying to do good, a guy trying to make up for a mistake in his past. And then we bring in the murder mystery plot line, which always works. Everyone loves a good murder mystery. And then I think there's a fantasy book on the top 5. Again, a young person finding out who they are, but they're special. They have powers and they can do more than what everyone sees in them. And then you see that in Superman. You see that in Spider-Man. You see that where someone's hiding who they truly are, and who they truly are is super glorious. And they let that out when they can. And then there's another, I think on the top one is the retelling of Huckleberry Finn through the eyes of the character Jim, which is another great plot line. If you're starving, you want to write, I don't know what to write about, go look at a classic. Go tell it from a different angle.
Wow.
That's a great way to start your own series. Okay? You find that classic book. I always thought, and again, the English geek comes out, Laertes from Hamlet had a secret plot line that never was factored into the play because he was away and came back and learned that his dad is dead and his sister's dead, and how does he react to that? And I always thought that would be an interesting novel to write.
I'm going to make you think for a second, Mark. Is there a story in your memory that goes against all of this? There's not these common themes. There's something that just is something, I don't want to say more fresh, but doesn't use a lot of the same themes and went in a totally different direction and stands pretty much unto itself. Is there anything?
I think the answer is no. As wildly original as you want to be, we're still human, and we're still going to talk about the themes that make us human: struggle, overcoming of obstacles, hiding a true self, gaining powers, doing good or doing bad for the good or good reasons. These are all universal concepts, and they're going to come up in almost every story if the story is good. And there's a reason that these things are universal for us, right? Because they say something about us as people. And I think tapping into that in an original manner is what makes a great book or a great story, great movie.
How about a story that you feel wasn't strong, could have been stronger if they changed up the plot? And when I say story, it could be movie, TV, show, book.
So I was told that the show I would love it. Multiple people said it was right up my alley. And I got a serious Dexter vibe from it because the main character is in fact a killer. He's a protagonist because it follows him along on his journey. And I thought there were moments in that could have been incredibly interesting because there was a lot of first-person narration where you hear his thoughts, which is a technique that you can use in screenwriting. And I honestly thought it was going somewhere where it could have been good, and then it kind of just fizzled. And again, I did not care for it, but they pulled 3 seasons out of that character, so someone must have liked it. But I think that had all your concepts in it. He was hiding his true self. He was trying to be more than what he was. He had a terrible background where he had survived these things, and he runs this bookstore, but he's a stalker, he's a killer, and in the end of the first season, I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I think they introduced a character to try and tie it up, and I thought that one fizzled in terms of a plot.
You, as a publisher, helping people craft stories, make them better, and publish a book. Do you have ideas always floating around in your head?
Unfortunately, yes. Like, I just watch something or I read something, and I'm like, what would I do? How would I make it better? And like when I edit, I think it's tough for an editor to rein that in. It's not my story. I'm just trying to help this person make their story better. I don't want to infuse it with my own views or my own characters or what I think is important. I'm trying to help that person craft what they think is important in a better way. But again, I think we all do it, right? Like you said, you watch Dexter. There were some episodes where you're like, no, I don't like this. I don't like this plot line. I don't understand why they're doing this. And I think a lot of us do that when we watch a show or when we read a book, we question the writer. Like, why did they make this decision? And ideally, that gives us the motivation to do it on our own.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I could do a better job. Maybe I can sit down with a pad, a paper, and I can write my own Dexter-esque book, movie, show.
Do you feel that everything that is out there is just, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but is inspired by something else? I've done morning radio for years. I stopped about 4 years ago just so I could sleep late for the first time since I was a kid, literally. And I would listen to other morning shows and be inspired. I didn't copy, but just little nuances, a little flavor here and there. And even a few of them, I've become very good friends with them, and we would share content and ideas. But I'll have to say, there was a lot of originality there, but it was also based on inspiration coming from other areas. That said, do you feel that everything out there comes from something else?
I think writers read. If you're a writer, you should be reading other people's works, and maybe a style makes a lot of sense to you. I was a big fan of Raymond Carver because he used the pregnant line really very well, I thought. Like very short stories, not a lot of detail, but like one or two lines, you're like, whoa, I got to reread that again because that makes a lot of sense. So I like that. I like a throwaway line that chapters later is incredibly important. And I also like that in my TV shows. A throwaway character first episode comes back in the 9th episode and becomes incredibly important. And I think I used the term before, it's rewarding the reader or the watcher. Someone who's reading closely or watching closely, they're rewarded because they picked up on it in the beginning and then they understand it clearly, like later on in the show or the book. And so a lot of authors do that. William Faulkner would do it over and over again. So I will use a polite term, borrowed that in my own writing. I didn't steal it or copy it, but I was inspired by it. I liked it. I thought it was cool. And I was like, I want to do this. I want someone to read my work and go, you know what? Now that I'm on chapter 10, I'm going to go back to chapter 1 because I know there was something there, an Easter egg that he dropped that now, oh, that makes sense. And I just like that. And I like all my fiction. I think that works well.
3 authors that you feel are phenomenal.
That's a tough question. There's authors who are real obscure, but I enjoy their writing immensely. And then there's the more popular ones that I think have done really well with.
All right, let's put them into 2 categories. So we have the popular ones we'll all know, and then the obscure ones. And I get what you're talking about. Like if you would ask me right now, Steve, what's your 3 favorite songs? I might say stuff and you'd be like, what's wrong with him? What is that? So, all right, 2 different categories, 3 and 3.
This is, again, a book that was turned into a movie. The movie was High Fidelity. We're talking about one of my favorite quotes is, what you like is as important as what you are like. You can tell a lot about people by their favorite movie or their favorite song. Obviously you're an honest, wonderful human being, but like, what's your favorite movie? because that is as important as your personality. So that's a tough question. And like you say, songs, I can go books. One of my favorite books, and it was like almost a precursor to like a fantasy, is Bless Me Ultima, which is a book that takes place in the Southwest. It has like a magic. It's not like a magical realism, but it has a magical aspect that's set in an impoverished town. And I think that was one of my favorite books when I was growing up. Um, I people always say it, but it's still one of my favorites is Moby Dick. The last four chapters of Moby Dick are fantastic. You do have to get through several hundred pages to get there, but those last four are fantastic. And The Road by Cormac McCarthy, I think, was a great book. So those were three of my favorite books.
Thank you for sharing that, because that, gives some insight into you, but also even when you mentioned Moby Dick, knew it as a kid, might want to circle back to that because it's been so long.
Again, that's a tough one. It's thick. A lot of people get bored by it because he does go into minute detail about the ship.
Yeah.
But then the last four chapters, the writing there is fantastic, and I think it says a lot about what it means to be human, obsession, madness, and what are you willing to die for?
So, favorite movie? You asked me that. How to think about that before you answer that question. I never say the word never. However, I'm going to say the word never. I have never seen a movie twice.
Whoa.
With the exception of Black Hawk Down.
That's the one?
It would have to be. And it's just something about the suspense, the drama, the camaraderie, the relevancy to what our service people have gone through. It sticks in my head. And that probably would be it.
Yeah. The scene in that, I think it's Eric Bana as the actor, where he's gone through the entire movie. He's done everything. He comes in and gets something to eat very quickly and asks, "Where's he going?" "I'm going back," because there are more people to rescue. And I like that goes back to the great hero scene, is it not? The selfless hero.
Yeah.
And you go back to Moby Dick. This is worth dying for. Saving these people is worth dying for, and that's maybe why it resonates with you and why it resonates with a lot of us, because again, it's been in a lot of books, a lot of movies, but in that scene, it's driven home. It's driven home beautifully.
It almost hits your heart. Like, it's like, damn, go back. You know what I'm saying? There's something that just like rips you. Like, you want to be that person because you want to jump in and help.
And what better thing is there to do to help our fellow human beings?
Exactly. And
again, it goes back to the chapters of Moby Dick. That's for that character. That's worth dying for. That's his whale, to save those people.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, what better thing is there to die for than another human being? Not a whale, not money. And you see it in different movies, but in that particular example, that one scene, I thought, because I remember that movie too, I was like, yes. And the same thing. I want to be that guy. I want to be him, knowing I could walk away and I've done my job, but there's more to it that I could do.
Yes. And somehow when you watch these movies, it just feels good. Like you feel what they feel, even though they're not real. I don't know if that makes sense.
And that's the great thing about fiction, right? We feel what these people who've never existed feel.
Yeah.
And we understand Batman or Superman or Harry Potter or whomever. And these people don't exist, but like we live and die with every decision they make, because the writer has made them come alive for us.
And that's probably the makings of a good book, show, or movie. You help people with this all the time. If anybody's thinking about maybe jumping in, you got ideas, you're inspired, you love movies, you want to write a book, how do they connect with you, Mark?
The website is nfbpublishing.com. I encourage anybody, even if you have a passing thought, you have 10 minutes, jot down some ideas. You outline it out. And again, one of the easiest a lot of people have, I don't know how to start. Pick your favorite movie. Okay. That character, we don't know what happened to him in Black Hawk Down. We don't know if he survived. Take that character and write the sequel. And that might lead you to something fantastic.
And if anybody wonders how this can be done, how regular people, if you will, can write a book, go to the website and look at the titles that you've helped publish for people. I got to tell you, Mark, first time I ever looked at the list, I was like, oh my gosh, Look at how many scroll, and all different types. Books that people have written to help them heal from challenges. Books that, historical accounts, so much there, so much variety. I love graphics. I just go to scroll to see the covers. I think it's amazing.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, I truly mean it. I've never seen a publishing company, a smaller one like you work with people with the robust covers that, and that's that. Well, you do marketing for the book as well. The cover is part of the marketing. It's all right there. Yeah. Thank you so much for today. Really appreciate it. And looking forward next time we get together, Mark.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.